Hello, everyone, and welcome to Franz's Real Estate Facts, episode number 5. We are now in February. Can you believe it? It feels like only yesterday it was January 1st, and now it is February 2nd. I am here with Jake Holmes, who is super awesome and great and really fun to talk to. And he is going to talk to us about the top 5 home improvement mistakes that sellers make before selling their homes. And I know as a real estate agent that home inspections and issues with a house can kill a deal. Like the strongest, most awesome, best looking deal, there's like something that shows up on the home inspection, like, I don't know, a cracked slab or a missing roof. And suddenly buyers who are like, this is my dream home, are like, that dream feels like a nightmare. And they say, I'm not going to do this. And they walk away. So, Jake is going to help all you home sellers out there figure out what you need to do so that this dream home stays a dream home for buyers until they close. So, thank you so much for being with us, Jake.
My pleasure. It's great to be with you, Frantz.
Awesome. So, in your experience as a home inspector, I wonder, what do you see killing deals? Like, when do agents call you up and say, Jake, why did you say this? Because it killed my deal.
Okay, let's clarify that. Okay, first of all, I am in the truth business. And if the truth scares people, that's just the way it goes. Because, it's a huge investment. And that's something
Absolutely.
that you and I and anybody in our industry really should always keep in mind is that, someone's buying a dream and we want to support that. We really want to support that. And although I never give an opinion, it's funny, I was talking to, one of the things that I like to do is I call my client 2 days after I deliver their report. And it gives them the opportunity to talk about the report and things like that. And just over the weekend, I had a client say, Jake, would you buy this house? I told her, I cannot answer that question. For everyone, it's different. Some people really like to roll up their sleeves and they want to make their home their own. They love doing a home improvement. They love doing that. Other people love turnkey. They don't want to do anything. And I don't make that
Right.
determination for them. They have to determine that on their own. Now, one of the things that really kicked that house in particular out was the electrical. It was a 1963 build, and the electrical had never been upgraded. It had been patched, right? They had changed the outlets in the house, and several of those were bootlegged. Bootlegging is when you take an old outlet that's not properly grounded and you monkey with the outlet itself to make it look grounded to my stuff. Well, when I go into a 1963 build and I see upgraded outlets, I'm going to open one, and let's see how these guys did this. Did they do it properly? No, they didn't, but that's not the end of the world. There's ways to solve that. You can install a GFCI outlet, now those cost, I don't know, $15 to $25. But when you count up the outlets in the house, you start to freak out. Oh my God, that's a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
But you only need to change typically 1 or 2 per room, because you install the GFCI outlet, that outlet's protected, and it's going to protect the next 4 downstream. So that's a real easy solve. The electrical panel, on the other hand, that's something that when I see an upgraded electrical panel, that is always good news. And it's one of the first things I tell a buyer. Not only do I tell them stuff that needs work in the house, but I'm always happy to share stuff that is good about the house. So, oh my gosh, you have 200 amps coming in. It's a new panel. It looks like it's maybe 3 years old. this thing's going to outlive you and me. And I can't tell you what a relief that is to people. So electrical is a big thing, to people. And if they're going to have to redo the electrical, they'll walk away from the deal sometimes. Like the couple that I saw over the week, that I saw the previous weekend, and the house had electrical. They ended up spending 130 grand more for a house that needed a lot less work and had a much better view.
Yeah. 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 People absolutely value views. And I know that in my experience, electrical work is often really scary to buyers just because it's scary, right? I mean, electrical
Mysterious.
fires, electrical shocks, and people, who has, if you look around and look at the electrical in your house, like the electrical stuff, you've got computers and TVs and Alexas and all sorts of stuff. And it's like, okay, that's what, maybe $10,000-15,000 worth of electrical stuff that if the electrical fuse blows or there's a short or whatever, you're like, all of that is gone. Plus all of the stuff on those devices is also gone. So I can understand that electrical is really scary. So would you say, in your experience, then, that if a seller upgrades the electrical panel, and that's probably what going to be somewhere around $3,000 to $5,000.
Most of the time.
Would you say that a seller is more than likely going to be able to either recover that by being able to ask more for the house, or the other side of it is the buyer is not going to ask for a discount because of the thing,
Right.
$5,000.
Right. In today's market, it's really, it's a seller's market for sure.
Right.
And I
Right.
inspect a lot, and even more important for buyers to get an inspection done, because they're going to be they're going to be the ones holding the bag. They're going to be the ones responsible to do those things. Now,
Exactly.
when it comes to electrical panels, if there's a problem with the electrical, that goes right into the safety column. And safety columns, it's not an improvement thing, it's a safety thing. And so sellers are going to be more compelled to make those improvements to the house. Does that
Right.
make sense? Even in a buyer beware situation, even in an as is situation, nobody wants to sell a house with safety issues because they're afraid that, some slick attorney might come in and try to get them for disclosure problems or any number of things. I know in the industry, there's a lot of talk about disclosure issues.
Yes.
And
Yes, I do
I've
know
been
that.
consulting with any number of real estate offices on, hey, these are things to look out for, for your sellers, that they really need to disclose this, or really, because someone's going to find out, and it's typically going to be me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really valuable point in thinking about disclosures. Um, First of all, even if sellers win a disclosure lawsuit, it's such a nightmare and it is so expensive. I mean, so incredibly expensive. I have an attorney friend who I think, the legal fees for a disclosure case that the sellers won, I think they were close to like $400,000. And not only that, like, yes, you might be able to recover those costs from the buyer because they sued you, but A, does the buyer have $400,000 to pay somebody else's attorney on top of their own attorney? And second, um, lawyers, I know this because I am one, lawyers don't work for free, right? So you are actually going to be paying out that $400,000 and you will be recovering that cost after you win. So, do you really want to be paying out $400,000 for experts and legal fees and all of that? Do you have that kind of money? Absolutely, really good, um, to just disclose everything you can disclose. Yeah.
To go back to that couple who ended up buying the more expensive home, the first home that they looked at, they really, really liked. Now,
Mhm.
had the seller upgraded the electrical, they would have been easily able to put another $5,000 into their purchase price, into their listing price. They could have easily done that and been able to say upgraded electrical, which is very attractive. And then when I go to look at it, I'm thrilled, and when I'm thrilled over an electrical panel, I want to cry sometimes because they're so beautiful. But you should see the way the people's eyes light up, the buyer's eyes light up. And so by a $5,000 investment, they could have saved, the seller could have saved themselves from having those people fall out of that deal and go and spend the money on another house that was 10 times, not 10 times, it was a lot more expensive. So obviously the buyer had the money.
Right.
You know, we're not just trying to sell to the lowest, you know, the lowest person on the rung who can afford your home. You
Right.
know, we don't know what the financial standing of our buyer is going to be, you know, and how much money they have in reserve, you know. So, you know, by doing these little upgrades. The other thing is the roof. That's another place where people really, really, really get scared, and they should be. Roofs can,
Yeah.
you know, roofs can get kind of sketchy. But
Right.
you know, there's a lot of guys out there who are droning roofs and doing stuff like that, and that's not really my thing. Because walking on a roof, you can feel the quality under your feet. You can feel the quality. You can see little things like nail pops and stuff like that you just can't really, unless you zoom up every picture, you're not going to see those little issues. And those little issues are so easy to solve. They're so easy to solve up front, but that thing leaks over the next 2 years. You know, now you've got drywall problems, you got rot problems in the ceiling, you've got rot problems, you could have mold, lots of issues. And so by having either upgrading the roof or making sure that the roof's in good shape before you list that house can save you a lot. You know, that's the first thing people ask me about, are how's the roof? They all want to know how the roof is. And the other thing is that there's only so much that we can tell as home inspectors. You know, there's, you know, you're not going to find a home inspector who's going to tell you how old the roof is, you know, because I can't tell.
No.
Because a roof in Del Mar is going to weather differently than a roof in Santee, where, you know, Del Mar, they'll have a lot of cloud cover, stuff like that. The roof doesn't dry out quite as fast. But the roof in Santee, they're getting sun, you know, 340 days a year.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so you just want to, you know, as a seller, you want to make sure that the roof is adequate and that it's draining properly.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. And roofs really, as you said, electrical, I think, is probably the number two thing that kills deals, but absolutely the roof. I mean, no roof, no house, right?
Right,
So,
right. Right. It's the basic caveman thing. They moved into caves to
right,
keep the rain off their head.
exactly. So, I have seen roofs absolutely kill deals. Um, so we talked about the electrical, we talked about the roof, we talked about not disclosing. So what are some other home maintenance mistakes that sellers make? Like, as a person owns a home, what can they do to sort of minimize cost or just, keep their house attractive as long as they own it?
Okay, we're back to water, right? We're back to rain. And
Okay.
you know, a lot of times people will you know, they'll do a lot of things to get their house ready to sell. You know, they'll
Mm,
paint it, sometimes they'll put on a new roof, and maybe they have you know, the accent paint, you know, the accent trim, like the
mhm,
fascia and all that, and that's a unique color, which makes installing gutters really challenging. Or maybe they just don't
mm,
like the way the gutters look.
mhm.
Okay, that is such an important thing, is to have gutters on your home, good
Mm,
ones, and they need to drain 4 to 6 feet from the property. Okay, or from, not the property, but from the house's foundation,
hmm.
because over time that and it can happen more rapidly than we think. But if all that water is depositing hundreds of gallons of water per rainstorm, hundreds, if not thousands of gallons of water dumping right next to your foundation, is going to that's going to cause problems, you know. And especially when we're listing homes, you'll see the black bark. You know, people put the black bark all around the house, which looks really good, and it hides the foundation to a degree,
Mm.
you know. And so that's, as a home inspector, if somebody's doing that and too much, that's going to make me a little suspicious about that foundation.
Yeah, and also definitely that comes back to the disclosure where I absolutely know that lawyers are going to come in and be like, well, you put all this like really pretty black bark around your house. Like, hey, Mr. Home Inspector, why do people usually do that in your professional opinion? And then you
well
would
it
say exactly what you just said.
well, yeah, it could just be to make the property look good, but for the buyer, when you do buy that property, pull that stuff away. I want to see, 4 or 5 inches. The advice is truly 6 inches, but 4 or 5 inches will do it. Just pull that stuff away from the foundation. You don't want moisture hanging around the foundation ever. You just want to
Mm,
kind of keep that pulled away a little bit, and keep your bushes, trimmed nicely, and so they're not leaning up against the house. I used to have this amazing morning glory that grew all over the side of my house, and it grew into my patio area, and I loved it. And and the VA guy came to do my home inspection. He said, "Yeah, you rip that off. You got to rip it all off." And this is before I was a home inspector. So, oh, it's so pretty. It's destroying your house. Okay, I'll pull it down. I'll pull it down. But yeah, keeping that's one of the things that people can do, is make sure that those gutters are doing their thing. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have this big long leg of the gutter getting, crossing the walkways and stuff. They have some that tilt up now. You can tilt them up, and it doesn't stand out at all. And then,
mm.
as the rain's coming, like we're supposed to have rain Wednesday, you just drop that thing down and deposit the water properly.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah. And then another thing they can do to make the process go smoother is, or to, to keep their house in good shape, um, would be the plumbing.
Mm,
you know um Now, very few people they'll opt for the $300 or $400 that it takes to get their things scoped, their drains scoped.
hmm.
And remember, as homeowners, we're responsible for the drain halfway to the street.
Right.
Okay, that's a big thing to have it. So if that needed repair or something like that, we'd have to pay to have the street dug up in order to
Right.
replace that pipe, or to do whatever. Um, Now, so getting your drains cleaned prior to listing your home, I think is a great idea. Have somebody go through. They have this little sprinkler thing that jets out. It's a jet that'll cut. It'll cut roots. It'll cut all sorts of stuff. And although, yeah, I think we paid like 450 to do that from our main all the way out to the street. But we haven't had a problem since with
Mm,
roots and stuff like that. And if I have drains that are running slow when I do an inspection, I'm going to recommend they get it scoped. And the
right.
scoping could uncover all sorts of issues. So from a seller's perspective, you don't want to cause any suspicion that the drains may not be working very well. And that's probably not the nicest, most altruistic advice, but it's practical advice. to make sure that those drains are running well.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it seems like we've actually hit our 5 things, the 5 mistakes that sellers make. First, you mentioned is electrical, which is absolutely critical. Upgrade your electrical, pay the 5 grand that it takes to upgrade the panel, and I can speak working as a buyer's agent, that will absolutely make buyers super happy, especially when
You'll
you're
make
looking
me
at like
cry. Yeah.
and make who doesn't want to make Jake cry of
Tears of
happiness?
joy.
Tears of joy. Yes, that is great. And I can speak working with, millennial buyers or even buyers working from home. I mean, they are gonna really care about the electrical because they want to make sure that their work from home office with all of their like expensive electrical equipment is going to be well taken care of. So electrical, roof, really important. Make sure that the roof is in good condition. Third is just not disclosing. That's a mistake. If you think there's something wrong, tell the buyer that there's something wrong, that you think there's something wrong. Then you shift the responsibility from you to the buyer. And then if the buyer says, hey, you didn't disclose this, it says, no, I told you this might be an issue. You should check it out. And then the buyer chooses not to check it out, not your problem anymore. And then gutters, which are also really important because it can really eat away at the foundation. Um, slab foundations, crawl spaces, any of those, you don't want water going into those. And then the last is plumbing, which whenever I work with buyer clients, I recommend that buyers scope the drains, make sure that everything is okay. They paid a little bit of money to get that done, but it's a little bit of money for a lot of peace of mind. So and I think one of the biggest things that I see with sellers now, because it is such a strong sellers market, is that sellers say, well, I don't really have to do this because I'll find a buyer anyway. And of course, you might find a buyer anyway if you don't plan and prepare. But, are you going to find the best buyer? And I can also tell you that buyers agents, when don't do your due diligence, when you're not prepared and you fall out of escrow and you get another buyer, that is always a discount. It is at least 1 to 2% of the original offer price, unless the listing agent is smart and accepts backup offers, and then it's contingent on, that escrow falling through, and then, which is what I do when I'm a listing agent. But, unless the listing agent does that, you're looking at a discount. You're looking at a discount. You're looking at like, a $10,000-$15,000 haircut off of your sales price, and I don't think that that's worth it, especially given the market right now. There's no need for it. And with just a tiny bit of planning and a little bit of money, you can sell your house, have very little stress, and make Jake cry tears of joy, which is amazing, right?
There's one other thing, Franz, a benefit to having a pre-listing inspection on your home, that with my group, we're all in trade associations, and I happen to be in a company called in a trade association called Internachi. And so with every home I inspect comes a buyback guarantee. And so what that basically means is that if I missed something that I should have caught in an inspection, the seller or the buyer can sell the home back to Internachi for the exact price they paid. That's a really, really nice guarantee. So for the pre-listing inspections, Internachi recently approved, I think in the last 6 months, that inspection, if they pass that to the buyer and the buyer uses it, the guarantee goes with it. So this way they have the home already inspected. The buyer they can trust that inspection, right? Because the downside for me is huge. So I don't take sides.
Right.
And so that way it just makes escrow go so much more smoothly. And that's
Absolutely.
one less for the agents. It's one less appointment they have to do, one less, problem that they have to deal with. in the escrow process. And that's peace of mind for both the seller and the buyer. And basically, they're going to have their disclosure report already ready for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really awesome. And, next week we will be having an insurance person come and talk about insurance. But, one of the biggest things that sophisticated people do, whether they are sophisticated business people or sophisticated homeowners, is they try to shift the financial burden and the financial risk onto somebody else. So whether it's shifting it onto Internachi for if Jake accidentally doesn't see something, or shifting it onto your insurance company, or shifting it onto the buyer, shifting the responsibility onto the buyer, just shifting all of that financial and sort of liability risk onto somebody else is a really important element of being a sophisticated person involved in a high stakes transaction. And that is something that you really help people do with what you do as a home inspector. So I want to thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, informing sellers. And of course, I think buyers could certainly learn something from this too if they watch this video. And I look forward to working with you again. And also, just want to say quick shout out to Karen Bielterman. Thank you for introducing us. Karen is also awesome. She was on episode 4, which was last week. And if you as a seller want to learn anything about how a mortgage insurance person can help you, then you should watch that video because it was awesome and super helpful as well. So thank you all for, I'm sorry?
She's super smart.
She is super smart, super awesome, and really fun to talk to. So I really appreciate you showing up, and I will see all of you next week.
Okay, thanks, Frantz.
Bye.